Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So, as most of you know, I was in Japan before Christmas, and while I was there, we got to explore a whole bunch of cool things. But I was introduced to some Japanese ghosts or Japanese monsters, and there's this one Japanese monster. It's a lady in a kimono, and she's got this really long neck that weaves in and out. And I thought, it would be really funny to take this Homer Simpson and try and sculpt a really long neck. Maybe even sculpt out a kimono on him. So, I don't know. Let's try it. All right, here is the Homer Simpson bobblehead. He's really cool. I love how his hands are just up, so he's like, woo! Which kind of made me think about making it this Japanese ghost. So the Japanese ghost is called Rokurokubi, and her neck stretches really far, and so I thought this would be really fun to do. So the first thing I need to do with this Homer Simpson is deconstruct it so I can figure out the different components. So I used a heat gun to pop that off. You can see there's a little string that helps the spring from just stretching the head. So I'll need to cut that. Then once I cut that, I can just pull that spring all the way through. It's hooked on there really good, so I had to get some pliers and I popped that off. Once I get the head off, I was looking at the body and I was like, oh, there's a couple of weird little seam lines, so I thought I'll sand that off. And then my OCD kicks in and I just start sanding like crazy. And yeah, there's seams on the shirt, on the pants, and so I just started going all out. I thought I'm just going to make this as clean as possible. Now I'm going to sketch where the kimono will come across the chest and down. And then I need to clean up the collar just a little bit because of the way it angled, it wasn't quite right. So I'm going to use some Magic Sculpt, and I'm at the very end. You can see that one part is kind of crusty, but this stuff is such a good clay or two-part epoxy. And the reason I bring that up is you'll see later in this video I run into a snag. But I rolled out some of this Magic Sculpt and just I'm building out the cross piece, and then I'm just trimming it down. I've got that other little gap on the other side of the collar, so I'm going to go ahead and just fill that with a little piece. And this two-part epoxy, it dries in about 45 minutes to an hour, but you can sculpt it really nice. It's great. I love this stuff. Actually, Jason Freeney was the one that I asked him at a trade show what he uses, and he had mentioned this. So I got this looking pretty good. I need to figure out how to cover the bottom half here. And I was going to just put clay, but I'm afraid that the clay will sink down to the pants, and I'm going to have to just fill it out. So I have an idea for that. I'm actually going to measure the dimensions, the height, and the width, and I am 3D printing just a cylinder tube. That will come in handy later, and it just made my life easier. I didn't have to run to the store and try and find a piece of wood that would fit. And I am just really struggling to get these pants off, but I did. I just kept hacking at it, and boom, it came off. You can see I already sculpted with some of the extra clay, some little sandals. So I'm going to cut these feet off, and I'm going to glue those onto the cylinder later. Make sure to use safety goggles, because little shards of plastic will shoot in your eyeballs. I do need to cut these shoes in half because I'm going to build out some Japanese sandals. So just took my blade there and hacked that. There is a little 3D printed part. I don't normally do a lot of 3D printing, but I did on this one just for that little piece there as a base. Now, my Magic Sculpt ran out, so on Amazon, I found this two-part epoxy, and it was actually about $12 cheaper, so I bought it. And hang tight, because I will show you what happened there. I'm gluing on this little 3D printed part, and again, this is just so I can put clay and wrap it around. Now, the Magic Sculpt, it blends so beautifully. It is a really nice clay. This stuff here that I bought on Amazon, I'm not even going to mention the name of it because, yeah, I don't know if I got a bad batch, but I was so frustrated. It was so sticky. I had even let it set for about 15 minutes because sometimes the epoxy needs to set up a little bit. It was rough. Now, I'm not going to throw this epoxy away because I can use it to fill holes when I'm building other projects. So I'm going to use it as a different tool, but Yeah, I was defeated at this point, and so I thought, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna just tear all this off. I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna order some more Magic Sculpt. And this is kind of where the Magic Sculpt, it wasn't gonna get here for like a week, so
One eternity later.
woohoo! It finally came in, and once I started working with it, it is like night and day. So, if you're a builder out there, one thing you can like wet your finger and just smooth things out. Oh, it's so great. So I got the skirt on or the bottom of the kimono, and then I'm putting the belt on, and I got that rolled out, and I'm laying this, and then I'm thinking, wait a minute, I need the kimono piece that comes all the way down. So gotta take this back off, and sometimes just slowing down and thinking through a project helps. I don't know, for whatever reason on this project, everything felt rushed. My paint wouldn't dry fast. Like everything was not really going so great, but I'm kind of moving forward. I laid out the bottom portion. I'm not too worried about the seam where the top and the bottom come together because that belt is going to cover all of that. So just rolled out another piece of Magic Sculpt, two-part epoxy, wrapping that around. I'll trim that and then do some blending, get that all blended in together. And I think it's going to work out pretty nice. Now, I'm putting on the tie. So instead of trying to loop and tie the clay, I thought I'll just kind of sculpt out a piece here. It worked out really nice for me. And then I thought, I'm going to give the belt just a little bit of character. So I carved these little lines into it. And even the way the tool drug across and kind of skipped and made these little inaccuracies, I kind of like it. It's kind of interesting to me and gives a little bit of character. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that out. The kimono, I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know if I had to do it, but I think it does add just that extra little touch. I had some extra clay, and I thought, you know what, I think I need to build out the sleeves a little bit because the sleeves were like a short sleeve dress shirt, and I think that looks a lot better. I will do a lot more sanding on this once it dries. So here it is. It's all dry. I've started sanding, but I do a ton of sanding. I kind of spared you on a lot of the sanding, but for the neck, I've got this flower wire, but that's kind of flimsy. And I don't have any armature wire or anything like that. And I didn't really feel like running out and buying anything. So I took a handful of pieces of this flower wire and twisted it together. Now, one of the wires got loose on me a little bit, but that's okay because in the center portion I had enough to cut out. Now, I don't really have anything to screw this wire into, so I thought this wooden dowel fits perfectly, so I can almost use this as a plug. So that's exactly what I did. I cut out a little piece, hammered it in there. I should put some glue on it first. I did not, but I will go ahead and put some glue here on the top. It's a really tight fit, so I think it's going to be fine. Then I grabbed a drill bit. I'm going to kind of do a little leader hole here first, and then drill a little hole into the neck, and the wire wrapped around is going to fit really nice. I'm using like just bottles and containers that I have the cylinder to help wrap that wire because I was trying to bend the wire and I couldn't get a nice, really smooth curve using a little bit smaller wooden dowel here, and it actually gave me really nice curves. I kind of smashed it down a little bit, but just getting a little view of about where I want it to be. So I put some super glue, some CA glue all over this, glued that in. Now there was a little bit of a gap, so I'm putting some baking soda in there and I just kind of packed it in, and that actually with the CA glue kind of solidifies and makes a nice little bondo almost. Put a little glue in the top of the head, push that in. I'll drill a hole in that as well, and let's just do a little test fit here. And that's looking pretty cool. I I didn't know exactly how long to make the neck, and I didn't want it to be super heavy. So in the end, I don't know if I did it exactly how I wanted it to be. I'm not sure. This is working out pretty nice. I could have done the head twisting around the body, but this is kind of what I went with. And you can see I kind of split the clay there, wrapped around. I did half of the neck so I could kind of let that dry and then do the second half because I didn't want this long, continuous snake of clay that was all, pliable and stuff. So half and half worked out pretty nice for me. Put on the second half here, blending that in. And again, this stuff is really easy to work with. I kind of just use a tool to mash it all together, and then my finger with a little bit of water, and you can smooth that out. And I was actually able to smooth and blend it into the dry epoxy. So it's kind of what I'm doing right here, just smoothing this out. Again, I did a ton of sanding on this to try and get it as smooth as possible. When I'm working on my projects, I want everything to be as clean as I possibly can make it. I'm not always the greatest at it, but I always think of Jason Freeney when he's building his builds. His stuff is so clean, and so that's kind of my target. I'm always like, okay, I can at least strive to make it as clean as possible. So this top part of the neck here is still pliable, so I'm kind of gluing this together so I can build out the neck a little bit. You'll see here in just a second, the neck is totally funky, but it's okay. I'm going to let this dry first. And then once it dries, I'll build out with some more Magic Sculpt the neck. So now it's dry. I just got another clump of clay. I'm just going to kind of start building this out and smoothing it, blending it with my finger, wetting my finger, all that good stuff. So it's a little messy, but it worked out great. I'm using an old paint stick for the sandals. Geta, I think is what they're called. They're the sandals with the little high blocks on them so they walk around. So I thought it looks kind of fun, like very traditional. So yeah, I think this is going to work out pretty great. Just gluing them together. The glue actually slid around just a little bit, gave me a little bit of time to play with that, get it all lined up exactly where I want it, and then I just matched the two shoes and built them exactly the same. Here's just a sneak peek of the sanding. I got this dust collector. It's kind of a new toy. I masked off the eyes because I did not want to paint the eyes white. Like I was kind of dreading doing any of the painting, especially all the little black pieces in his beard, his mouth area, but I decided at least I could save some time by covering up the eyes. So I'm starting here to paint out the little black areas, and this was a pain in the neck. Sometimes painting is really calming and peaceful for me, but for whatever reason, this was just, it was not fun. It was like really, really tedious, and but I took my time. I did mess up in a few areas, and I'll fix that at the end. I had the Citadel paint, this blue, painted the kimono. I thought the orange is yellow and the blue is a really nice combo. Here I'm just painting out the sandals, just kind of doing a traditional white sock with the black rope and the wood shoe. Super basic traditional Japanese shoe. Here I am just retouching some of the yellow area, gluing down the shoe, glue this on. Now the shoes, when I put them on the body, the head is so heavy that it doesn't balance properly, so I'm gonna have to think of something for that. But the kimono was looking a little boring, so I thought maybe I'll paint this kind of tan pattern inside the groove that I had carved, and that gave it a little bit more personality. And then for the base, I thought might be kind of fun to do a tatami pattern. Tatami is like the Japanese flooring. But the base that I had, it was kind of hollow underneath. So I'm putting a little piece of wood glue and then an extra little piece of wood here. Because what I want to do is drill some dowels through the shoe and they'll act as pegs. So here's some brass dowels and I'm going to drill some holes into that little tatami mat. And that should help hold everything together. So the rod was a little wiggly, so I went ahead and did a little bit of Magic Sculpt just to kind of hold the rod in place so it wouldn't wiggle and be really sturdy. Adding a little tiny bit of glue onto the shoes here. We will stick the Homer, and so I kind of just lined it up, and I had the feet kicked out just a tiny bit so it had a little bit of personality to it. I like that. Now, to mark the holes in the tatami, what I did was I just put napkins in the hole, dab some paint, and I'm going to just line it up, give it a good little press, lift it up, and there's where I need to drill my 2 holes. So, and then that little paper towel just pulls right out. I'm using a little pipe cutter to cut my little brass pipe here. I drilled the holes. I'm plugging these in, and we're gonna call this one done. All right, he is done, and I gotta say, 9 times out of 10 when I do a build, I was like, that is so much fun, and I really enjoy it. But this one gave me a lot of struggles and was frustrating at times. But in the end, it's super bizarre, and I kind of like it. There's things where I'm like, oh, maybe should I have done the neck differently, but it is what it is. It's how I made it, and so, yeah, it's definitely different and interesting, and a little departure from my robot. So, I hope you like it. Let's do some turnaround shots of this thing, and as always, even when you don't know exactly what you're doing, it's still a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.